Hello and welcome to the channel, fellow farmers. Farmer Murphy here. This is my first attempt at trying to create any kind of content for YouTube. And in fact, if you'd have told me 5 years ago that I'd be doing this, I'd have probably told you to give your head a shake, particularly around the game. But here we are. Nonetheless, I've decided to stick my toes in the pond, so to speak, and give it a try. One thing I will mention here is I am recording this on PS5, and all my content going forward will be recorded on console. If you've been following any of the news around the upcoming release of FS22, one of the first things you'll notice that this is not one of the new maps, and in fact I am on FS19. I'm recording this Saturday morning here in Western Canada. Like most of you, anxiously awaiting the release on Monday of the game, but I thought I'd come on and do a introductory video and just kind of explain where I'm headed with the channel and kind of work out some of the kinks hopefully out of this recording thing. I'm sure things will get better as we move along, hopefully anyway. I'm on, as I said, FS19, and this is the Millennial Farmer map. This map is actually based on an actual real farm. Millennial Farmer is a YouTuber, pretty interesting channel actually. He goes a lot into how the equipment operates and the science behind modern farming, and I find it pretty interesting. And I'll include a link to his channel in the description, and if you're interested, I encourage you to check it out. But this map is, particularly in the farmyard, is a very accurate representation of his actual farm. It actually makes it pretty fun to play on, I think. Like I said, I want to kind of just talk about where I plan on heading with the channel, but rather than standing around here in the farmyard, it is a farming simulator. I thought we might as well do a little farming. Although this is not intended to be any kind of tutorial or let's play, we're just kind of jumping in the middle of things, but you might as well tag along with me as I get a couple things done here. I had done a large soybean harvest and the price was not very good, so this morning things have recovered, so I'm going to jump in one of my trucks here and start hauling some soybeans off to market. If you've played on this map, you know land is pretty pricey on here, although they are very large fields to be fair. But I'm currently saving up to add a field to the farm, so that's what we're up to. Now this building here, this is not an original building. I did add this. I needed some more space. I tend to like pull-through buildings. It helps avoid the reversing disasters I sometimes get myself into. So we'll jump in one of our trucks here and we'll head over to our silo. Now I tend to in-game as much as I can drive in cab. Sometimes it's not always practical, but when I can, I do tend to drive in cab as much as I can. One of the quirks with this map is we actually have to get out and turn our silo on, so I will be jumping out here and doing that in just a second, and we'll get loaded up. Try not to trip over anything here. There we go. Back in the truck and we'll get loaded. So like I was saying, I started playing Farm Sim when it was released as a free game. And like I do with many games, I used YouTube as a resource to help figure things out when I got stuck. And there was no problem finding content for Farm Sim 22. There was lots of help out there. But one thing I did learn fairly early on was that the PC guys could do things that the console guys couldn't. I'd find a solution to the problem. They'd use a particular piece of equipment or a mod, and it turned out that I couldn't find it on Mod Hub. And I soon learned that there were PC-only mods, PC-only maps, that sort of thing, and console players didn't have access to that. That's when I came across a fellow by the name of Mr. CVP. He was a fellow console player, and so he became my go-to resource if ever I needed to figure something out. That's where I go, because I knew if Mr. CVP could do it, well, then I could do it. And that's primarily all I did initially, is just use it as a resource. I don't know what motivated me. One day I decided I would watch one of his Let's Plays. It wasn't something I did on any of the games. Like I said, I just typically used YouTube as a resource. As soon as I figured out what I needed to know, then I'd jump off. But I decided to watch one of his Let's Plays, and I have to admit, I kind of got hooked. I found him to be pretty informative and entertaining, and I discovered that there were things that I didn't know just from watching the Let's Plays. This led me to also watching other content creators, folks like DJ Goham, Virtual Farmer, Daggerwin, just to name a few. And that kind of got me interested. I said, well, that's kind of interesting. I thought I wouldn't mind doing that. But I didn't feel that I would bring anything new or anything different to the table that was already available out there. That these guys were doing, I didn't think I could do it any better. But when they announced that they were bringing out a new farming simulator franchise, the next version, I had noticed that some of these creators got requests to do in-depth testing that they just didn't have the time to invest. They kind of had a theme for their channel, and folks were looking for testing that was going to take a lot of setup and a lot of time, and they just couldn't put the time to it. And I thought, well, there may be a niche then for me, because I was some of these things I was interested in doing too, and I have to admit some I went off and did for myself. So with the release of FS22, like I said, I thought, well, there's an opportunity. There'll be new players. There will certainly be, it's a new game, there's going to be lots of testing opportunity, and that might be a good time to jump in and get involved. So that's kind of what led us to here. So, and that will be my focus on the channel, is kind of my niche, so to speak, is I want to do this involved or in-depth testing that others don't necessarily have the time to undertake. For example, one of the things I'm interested in is precision farming, or I'm sorry, got to check for the train here. It's a very nasty business when you don't, and one of those guys clock you. Let me tell you, I've learned that one from experience. As I say, not precision farming, but production chains, but not from the standpoint of how to. I know there'll be lots of content creators out there covering that, how to use production chains, but my interest is in the payback. Is it worth it? If you're trying to build a farming empire, is it, does production chains play a positive impact in that, or is it actually detrimental? Is it quicker just to sell the crops? So, but obviously that's going to take a lot of time to go through that, test it, and analyze it. So that's probably one of the first things that I'm going to tackle, and the kind of thing that I want to undertake on the channel. Another one that I'm curious about is, I don't know if you've been following some of the initial looks at the game that some of the early access guys have been putting on. I've noticed that there are lots of different tire types, manufacturers, and combinations, and I'm interested to see if there's one that outperforms another. And this is very similar to some testing that Farmer Cop did on FS19. So that's one of the other things I'll probably undertake, is doing some testing. Like I said, I'm just going to do things that I'm curious about, but I'll share with others, because if I'm curious, I'm certain there'll probably be other folks that are as well. I'm going to try and endeavor not to, do repeat testing that others have already done, unless, like I say, it's PEC testing, and as mods come out, I assume FS22 will be like FS19. They will get features and functions that we don't get access to. I may repeat some of the testing I've seen them do if I think it needs to be repeated on console, and folks like Mr. CEP haven't covered it off. But that's pretty much it. That's my kind of goal for the channel. I should mention too, I am planning on doing some Let's Plays. Um, just again, purely entertainment value. Probably not much different than what others are doing, but if I get a fan base following that may be interested in see how I do things. And so I plan on doing those as well. But anyways, I think that's it for now. Um, if you think this is something you'd be interested in, I encourage you to hit the subscribe button and like this video and hit the notification bell so you can see when other content releases. I'm hoping to start publishing things to YouTube shortly after I get access to the game, and like I said, probably production change will be the first thing you start to look at. But for now, thanks for watching. I hope you found it informative, and until next time, Farmer Murphy saying goodbye.